In 1985, a small team inside BMW's motorsport division was told to build exactly 5,000 road cars so a race car could legally exist. That single bureaucratic requirement, buried in FIA homologation rules, is the entire reason the M3 exists at all. Nobody in Munich set out to create the most beloved performance nameplate in automotive history. They set out to satisfy a rule book. And somewhere between then and now, that accident of regulation split into two separate cars, wearing two separate names, built on two separate assumptions about what you actually want. By the end of this video, you'll understand exactly which decision, made in a specific year, by people trying to solve a problem that had nothing to do with driving pleasure, is the one enthusiasts still argue about every single day. And I'm saving that decision for the end, because once you hear it, you'll never look at the badge on the trunk the same way again. The E30 M3 was never supposed to be comfortable, practical, or particularly nice to live with. It was a homologation special for Group A touring car racing, which meant BMW had to build a road-going version of a race car rather than the other way around. The S14 engine under the hood made 192 horsepower in US trim, which sounds unremarkable today, but it revved to nearly 7,000 RPM and weighed under 2,900 pounds carrying it. The flared fenders weren't styling. They existed because the race car needed wider tires, and homologation rules meant the street car had to physically match those dimensions. Every single design choice traced back to a track requirement, not a customer clinic. That's the mission statement enthusiasts still measure every M3 and M4 against, whether they realize it or not. A purpose-built driver's tool, stripped of excess, where every component earns its place because a race regulation demanded it. The problem is that mission was never going to survive contact with a growing customer base, expanding safety regulations, and a market that wanted more than one body style. And the first crack in that foundation showed up faster than most people remember. The E36 M3, launched in 1992, is where the argument actually begins, though most casual fans skip right past it. European buyers got the S50 engine, a 3.0 or later 3.2-liter inline-six, making up to 321 horsepower with individual throttle bodies, a genuinely race-derived piece of engineering. American buyers got something else entirely. The US spec E36 M3 ran a detuned engine producing around 240 horsepower, missing the individual throttle bodies and the higher redline, because BMW's North American division decided American buyers prioritized smoothness and emissions compliance over outright aggression. For years, US enthusiasts didn't even know they were driving a watered-down version of their own car's name. Here's the part that still makes collectors uncomfortable. That decision, made purely to satisfy a regional sales division, meant the single most important performance badge in BMW's lineup meant two different things depending on which side of the Atlantic you bought it on. And that precedent, once set, never fully went away. The E46 generation, running from 2000 to 2006, is widely considered the last M3 built entirely on the original homologation logic before things changed permanently. The S54 straight 6 made 333 horsepower, revved to 8,000 RPM, and came exclusively as a coupe or convertible, with a manual, or the widely disliked SMG automated manual. No V8, no all-wheel drive, no sedan in the US market. It's the generation collectors chase hardest today, and used E46 M3 prices have climbed well past their original sticker in the right configuration. But BMW's next move is the one that actually created the M3 versus M4 argument you're here for. In 2007, BMW did something that seemed unthinkable to E46 loyalists. The E90 sedan, E92 coupe, and E93 convertible M3 abandoned the inline-six entirely for a naturally aspirated 4.0-liter V8, the S65, making 414 horsepower and revving to an 8,300 RPM redline. It remains to this day the only V8 M3 BMW has ever built, and the engine itself was derived from the P65 V10 used in the M5 and M6 of the same era, with two cylinders removed. That's not a marketing story. BMW's engineers genuinely built a smaller version of a Formula One adjacent V10 just to fit it into a compact sedan. The S65 is also, quietly, one of the most failure-prone engines BMW has ever put in a production M car. And this is the detail most casual buyers researching a used E9X M3 never uncover until it's too late. Rod-bearing wear on early production units was common enough that BMW extended warranty coverage on the issue, and the fix requires pulling the engine. A full rod bearing replacement on an E32 M3 can run into several $1,000s at a specialist shop. The car that gave enthusiasts their favorite naturally aspirated engine in the nameplate's history also gave them one of its most expensive mechanical time bombs. But here's what almost nobody talks about regarding that generation, and it's the thing that actually matters for this entire debate. This was also the first M3 generation where BMW offered a genuinely wide spread of body styles under one name: sedan, coupe, and convertible, all sharing the same engine and philosophy. There was no M4 yet. Coupe and sedan were still just trims of the same car. That's about to change, and when it does, it changes the entire meaning of the name you're arguing about in the comments right now. In 2014, BMW made the decision that directly created the M3 versus M4 debate as we know it. The F80 generation kept the M3 name for the sedan only. The coupe and convertible got rebadged as the M4, aligning with BMW's broader naming convention, where even-numbered names went to two-door variants. Mechanically, they were nearly identical, both running the S55, a twin-turbocharged 3.0-liter inline-six, making 425 horsepower in standard trim, or up to 444 in competition spec. For the first time in the nameplate's history, M3 stopped meaning one specific car. It became a body-style designation attached to a shared powertrain philosophy, and that single naming decision is still the reason you get two separate camps fighting in comment sections instead of one unified fan base. The bigger controversy wasn't the naming split, though. It was what sat under the hood. The S55's twin turbos delivered more torque, more low-end pull, and objectively faster real-world acceleration than the naturally aspirated S65 it replaced, with a 0 to 60 time around 3.9 seconds in competition trim. But it also delivered a flatter torque curve and a muted exhaust note that had to be partially synthesized through the speakers in certain markets, something BMW never advertised openly, but that independent teardowns and owner forums confirmed repeatedly. The engine that made the car objectively quicker also made it, according to a huge portion of longtime owners, less emotionally engaging to actually drive hard. That tension, between the numbers getting better and the experience getting quieter, more clinical, and more turbocharged linear, is the exact argument that's been playing out in every M3 forum for over a decade. And it was about to get dramatically louder. The G80 M3 and G82 M4, launched for the 2021 model year, are where every simmering tension in this nameplate's history boiled over at once. Start with the grille. The vertical, oversized twin-kidney design was, without exaggeration, one of the most polarizing styling decisions BMW has made on any car in the last 20 years, generating think pieces, parody accounts, and enough owner complaints that BMW quietly offered painted or gloss black grille options to tone it down. But the styling backlash, loud as it was, wasn't actually the biggest issue for driving purists. At launch, the G80 and G82 came exclusively with an 8-speed automatic transmission, no manual available at all in the US market for the first several months of production. BMW eventually reintroduced a 6-speed manual as a response to enthusiast pressure, but only on the standard non-competition version, meaning you had to choose between the manual gearbox and the full 503 horsepower competition spec S58 engine. You could not, at launch, have both. That's a decision that split loyal buyers directly down the middle, and it's still the single most argued about trade-off in the current lineup. Then there's the weight. A competition spec G80 M3 tips the scales at roughly 3,880 pounds, which is close to 1,000 pounds heavier than the E36 M3 that collectors still treat as the platonic ideal of the nameplate. Some of that is unavoidable. Modern crash structure requirements, sound deadening, and standard equipment that simply didn't exist 20 years ago all add real mass that no engineering team can wish away. But it means the car BMW built to chase the spirit of a 2,900-pound homologation special from 1986 now weighs more than a modern mid-size sedan. And here's the part that should genuinely worry anyone hoping the next generation returns to a simpler formula. BMW's current M5 already runs a hybrid powertrain, pairing a twin-turbo V8 with an electric motor, pushing curb weight past 5,300 pounds, making it one of the heaviest performance sedans BMW has ever produced. Multiple BMW M executives have publicly discussed electrification as the inevitable direction for the entire M lineup, and industry reporting throughout 2024 and 2025 pointed toward a hybrid-assisted powertrain for the next M3 generation as emissions regulations tighten further. The car that started as a stripped-down, sub-3,000-pound race homologation special is on a direct trajectory toward becoming a plug-in hybrid, and depending on how BMW handles that transition, it could either be the moment the nameplate finally reconciles performance with modern reality, or the moment longtime enthusiasts decide the M3 name has drifted too far from what made it matter in the first place. If you've made it this deep into a video about 6 generations of one nameplate, you clearly care more about this stuff than the average viewer scrolling past. That's exactly who this channel is built for, so if you're not subscribed yet, now's the moment, because the next comparison breaks down whether the manual-only holdouts in this segment are actually worth the compromises they demand. Let's get back into it. Here's where I land, and I know this won't satisfy either camp fully, which is probably the honest sign it's the right answer. If your definition of the M3's mission is the E30's original one, a lightweight, naturally aspirated, purpose-built driver's tool with zero compromise, then yes, that car effectively died with the S65 V8 generation, and everything since has been a negotiation between that ideal and the realities of emissions law, crash safety, and a customer base that wants heated seats and a hybrid battery instead of a stripped interior. The G80 and G82 are not that car, and pretending otherwise does a disservice to what made the original special. But if you judge the M3 and M4 by what they were actually built to do, deliver genuine track capability with everyday usability at a price point far below a European supercar, the current generation is arguably the most complete execution of that mission BMW has ever produced. The S58 in competition trim will out-accelerate, out-brake, and out-lap nearly every M3 that came before it, while still being comfortable enough to drive to work 5 days a week. The manual's return, however limited, proves BMW is still listening to the purists, even while chasing the buyers who want a dual-clutch launch control number for their Instagram story. The real answer is that BMW didn't ruin the M3. They split it into 2 different products serving 2 different definitions of what the name should mean, and depending on which definition you hold, you're either watching your favorite car evolve intelligently or watching it drift away from you one generation at a time. Both of those reactions are legitimate, and neither camp is wrong. So here's my actual question for you, and I want a real answer in the comments, not just a reflex defense of whichever one you already own. If BMW offered you a choice right now between a numbers-matching E36 M3 with an S54 and a manual, or a brand-new G82 competition with the S58 and a dual clutch, knowing everything you now know about reliability, weight, and where this nameplate is actually headed, which one are you actually driving home? Drop it below, because I already know this comment section is about to turn into exactly the argument this whole video was built around. If you want the next breakdown the moment it goes up, subscribe now, because the manual versus DCT deep dive I mentioned earlier is coming next, and it's going to make this comment section look calm by comparison.